I'm Phil Sugar. I work in actuarial service. There's an old saying that an actuary is someone who wanted to be an accountant but didn't have the personality. And I'm going to tell a few jokes today to try to prove to you that actuaries do have a sense of humor. Or maybe disprove it entirely. You're going to have to be the judge of that. You need to know a few things about actuaries in order to understand these, but I'll try to keep it simple. Actuaries are concerned with averages. For example, when we're pricing life insurance, we don't need to know when each individual participant is going to die, but we do need to get it right on average. If we can get it right on average, then we're in business. And there's a story about 3 actuaries who were going deer hunting with bows and arrows. And they crept through the forest and they spotted a beautiful deer in front of them. The first actuary shoots and his arrow lands 3 feet to the left of the deer. The second actuary shoots and his arrow lands 3 feet to the right of the deer. The third actuary says, "We got him, we got him." Most actuaries at this company start in the Actuarial Development Program, also called Actuarial Student Program. It means you're you're working in actuarial full-time, but you're studying your actuarial exams on the way to earning your Fellow in the Society of Actuaries credential. This exam study process takes anywhere between 5 and 100 years. And you can tell, our actuarial students really have to study a lot. They're always thinking about either what they've just studied or what they're studying now or what they're about to start studying. An actuarial student and an accountant and an auditor were all stranded on a desert island. And they've been there for days, but they discover an antique lamp in the sand and they rub it and a genie pops out. And the genie says, "I will grant each of you 1 wish." And the accountant says, "I wish to be back in my house with my husband and my children and my family and just have my regular life back." And the genie says, "It is done," snaps his fingers, and the accountant disappears. And by the way, if you think you know the ending of this joke, keep listening, because I changed something. Okay. And then the auditor says, "I wish I were back in my backyard with my dogs and my cat and could just play with my pets and have my old life back." And then the genie snaps his fingers and the auditor disappears. And the actuarial student says, "Finally, some peace and quiet. I wish I had my textbooks here so I could study." TIAA is an old company. We've been around for nearly 100 years, and we didn't always have computers. And yet our products are pretty complicated. You have to really understand the formulas that underlie the crediting of interest, the computation of annuity income, and all of the various variables that go into that. We didn't have Excel what-if analysis and computers that could do math for you when this company was founded. We had to derive all these formulas ourselves, and our products were pretty unique. You couldn't just go to a textbook and look up the formulas. So actuaries in the old days were like theoretical mathematicians. And there's an old story that may or may not be true, that an actuarial student many, many, many years ago went into the office of the head actuary and asked what he thought was a simple question about an interest crediting formula. And instead of answering, the head actuary took out a sheet of paper and a pen and wrote down this extremely long, complicated mathematical formula that filled up the entire page and then just handed it back to the student without a word. And the actuarial student said, "Is this supposed to be obvious?" And the actuary thought about it, and thought about it, and thought about it for about 30 minutes, and then said, "Yes, it's obvious." I'd like to give a shout out to our chief actuary of TIAA, Sue Collins. She really has an open door policy, and she's made it clear to us that she really cares about the opinions and ideas of all of the actuaries and actuarial students who work under her. It's a very special thing. You know, I'm sure it's not like this at all companies. There's a story about an actuarial student at another insurance company. This particular actuarial student was not a good worker. He was habitually late. He was goofing off all the time. That company didn't have core values like TIAA, but if they did, his work wouldn't have lived up to them. And one day, this student comes into work late as usual, and he gets to his cubicle, and he finds that his cubicle has been trashed. What in the world went on here, he says. A person who works near him said, well, the chief actuary came to your cubicle really, really mad, and the chief actuary took your computer and threw it onto the ground, and took all your papers and threw them onto the ground, and then set fire to the whole thing. And the actuarial student said, the chief actuary came to my cubicle? Thank you very much, everybody. Just call me anytime, or anyone in actuarial. To make you laugh.